Yes, we can.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay then. Okay, so sorry, Bayo, did you join us for the fundamentals training? Hi, Bayo, are you there? Okay, no. But you guys can still hear me, right?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, okay. All right, no problem. So what I'm going to do is, I know Esther didn't join us for the fundamentals, so I'm going to do like a quick run through or quick reintroduction to Microsoft 365 or the modern workspace, and then, now dive into our actual agenda. Right. So before we begin today, we'll just be doing like a quick course outline and then looking at like the certification pathway and all of that. Right. So what is actually modern workplace? Right. So Microsoft Modern Workplace is really a suite of tools, right, that helps to improve employee productivity. Right. So some of us might have heard of, the Outlook, the, of course, Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Maybe if you've even read extensively or if you belong to LinkedIn and all of that, you might have seen people mention stuff like Power Platform and all of that. Right. So these are all tools that were created by Microsoft to enable productivity or to improve productivity in the workplace, right? So you can see some of these images in here. You have Office 365 or Microsoft 365 as it is now called, right? We have Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams is the platform we are using right now to have this meeting, right? To have this session. You have Microsoft Forms, you have Power BI, and so on and so forth, Exchange Online, PowerPoint, Power Automate, and all of that. So they are all these tools, all these numerous tools. You might even know OneDrive. I think some of us would also be familiar with OneDrive. So all these numerous tools form, help to form the platform we know as Microsoft 365. It's just a collection of these tools that help to improve employee productivity, right? So it is agile. When we say it's agile, it means that you find out that most of these tools are always evolving, they are always being updated and all of that. It's flexible, easy to use, and helps you to harness the power of the cloud, right? So when we say the cloud, we're referring to, it's not the actual cloud. It's like using resources that are not, or taking advantage of resources, computing resources that on a norms on your system, you don't have access to them. So for example, the way you access your Gmail, right? You don't have people send you emails and then you open up your laptop or you access those emails on your phone, right? You don't actually have a server in your house where people come and then drop those emails in there, right? Those emails are actually being delivered to a server in Google's data warehouse, right? So you connect to that service, and that's like the power of the cloud. So you connect to that service. For Gmail has the free version, it has the paid version. So depending on what exactly you want to do, right? So that's like an example of a popular example of like a cloud service. So Microsoft 365 also gives you access to most of these productivity tools without you having to actually have them in your house or in your office, right? So you get to access, the beauty of it is that you can access all these tools anywhere you are from any device, so long as you're connected to the internet. So using your laptop, using your phone, you're just more productive that way. So some of the applications or tools that come with Microsoft 365, most of them are, we have Microsoft Office 365 and Exchange. So Exchange basically powers your email, calendar, and contact in the Microsoft 365 suite. So when you say exchange online, you're actually referring to the Outlook email, you're referring to, you know, calendar, to schedule events, to book meeting rooms and what have you, and also your contacts. Then we have Microsoft Teams, which yet again is the platform we are using currently, right, to host this training, right? So Microsoft Teams provides video conferencing and collaboration tools, and then we have other applications such as Power Automate, Power BI. Power BI is like it's a business intelligence tool used for data analytics. So you can have like a database, or you can even have as simple as an Excel sheet, right? So you have an Excel sheet with like customer details, and you want to be able to, you know, analyze that document. You want to be able to analyze that, you know, create a report out of that Excel sheet that is easy to read, that you can use for a presentation, that you can make decisions out of, right? So you can use Power BI to do that. And we also have SharePoint. SharePoint, we have OneDrive. These are like, it's a cloud repository for document management. So OneDrive is similar to like your Google Drive, right? So where you can store your documents, you can, you know, share those files with other people, and you can access those documents. You find out that for Google Drive, for example, if you change your phone, your Android device, right, and you connect on another Android device, so long as you log in with your Gmail and Gmail username and password, that the documents you stored in your Google Drive, you still see them in the new device, right? So it's the same idea for OneDrive for business, right? So you can store your documents and what have you. SharePoint is actually a bigger picture to OneDrive. So it's like for enterprise document management, for you know, you can create like an internal website using SharePoint. SharePoint is robust, really. And then we also have enterprise mobility and security, which helps you to manage your devices. You know, now that lots of companies are doing work from home, or even bring your own device and all of that, right? So it helps to give organizations security, because if you just give users access to your data or to your environment, right, without actually securing it, anything can happen, right? We hear of numerous cases of cyber security attacks and all of that. Just recently, I don't know if you guys heard of it, um, of a cryptocurrency company that, you know, they were attacked through their developers. So how it was done, the attackers actually staged everything, right? It was a really crazy social engineering scheme, right? So they created like job openings and then targeted the developers in that company. So those guys, of course, signed up for like signed up for the job openings. They probably made it look like really interesting and, you know, really juicy offers and all of that. And they actually went ahead to have like job interviews. Everything was so serious. Only at the end of the day to now create a link, a malicious link, and they shared it with those developers. And once the developers clicked on those links, that was it. They got access to, you know, their company's infrastructure, and they were able to hack in and, you know, now basically blackmail them for money, right? So got access to their data, and then were able to now hold them to ransom, right? So that's just like an example of some of the cybersecurity risks that are out there, right?
Good morning. Good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Sorry, please. Sorry for badging. I'm just joining the meeting now, please.
Oh,
Hope
it's fine.
we have not gone too far.
No,
It's
no, no.
Olatunde Adeweju is here.
Hi, Olatunde. We haven't gone so far. We're just really starting.
Thank you.
All right then. Thank you. Okay, so that's just an example of sorry, please mute your mic.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's just an example of some of the risks that companies face, and they need to put preventive measures against, right? And all of this is possible with Microsoft 365, right? If you have that modern workplace, if you have the right strategy set in place, right? And then of course we also have Azure. So Azure is like the service that the whole Microsoft 365 sits on top of. So the good thing about all of this is you don't have to memorize it right now. It's good to just have the general idea, and then you can now go back, read more on it, explore it more and all of that. And then from there you can, proceed as required. So looking at the certification parts. So when we had the fundamentals training in the some few months back, right, it was preparing attendees for the MS 900 exam. So which is like the beginners level exam, cloud fundamentals and all of that, Microsoft 365 fundamentals. These sessions for this particular intermediate classes that we'll be having for the next few weeks, right? It's really tailored. The sessions or the courses were designed around preparing you for the MS 100 exam, right? So, and when I say exam, I'm not like, oh, okay, we're going to do it like normal school or class methods and all of that. No, I mean like, we're using the curriculum that, on a norms, if you wanted to prepare for the exam, this is what you would, this is the path you would have followed and all of that, right? So if you choose to write the exam, if you do not want to write the exam, that's fine. But I would strongly advise that, so that you can now start to actually put yourself out there, right? So you can actually take the time and prepare for the exams. Once while there are usually you get access to exam vouchers, right? But then it's usually tied to maybe Microsoft is having an event, and then they're running a challenge, and then you can now get access to those exams if there are any such. I know that we had some people write some exams in the last, based on the last trainings that were held. So if there are access to various exam vouchers that allows you to write the exam for free, right, it should be posted in the general group. Otherwise, if you're still really interested in taking the exams, then you may need to pay for it. So it's like a pay directly to Microsoft, and then you write the exams directly with them and all of that, and then you now have the the proof that, oh yes, I am certified in this particular with this particular skills, right? So, and then after the intermediate, we also have the MS 101, which is the advanced level of the Microsoft 365 course. So where we are looking more on Microsoft 365 security management, compliance management, device management, and so on and so forth. So, but our focus for the next few weeks, like I said, is the intermediate, which is around MS 100. So we are looking at Office 365 management, we are looking at tenants and service management, we are looking at identity management. So this is just like this shows the path. If you're looking to write exams and prepare towards, getting recognized as a Microsoft 365 expert, right? So you need to have an idea or learn about, tenant and service management, identity management, Office 365 management to be able to write the MS 100 exam, which is the intermediate level. And then you need to be able to have an idea or study with regards to device management, security management, compliance management to be able to take the MS 101 exam, which is advanced. So that will be like for the next, once we're done with these intermediate sessions, if we have like another expert level trainings towards the end of the year, the expert level trainings will be preparing for MS 101. And then if you're able to write MS 100 and MS 101 combined, you now get certified as a Microsoft 365 enterprise administrator expert. Right, so you get certified as an enterprise administrator expert, which you can place on your LinkedIn, and everybody's like, oh, okay, this person is actually certified in this. And then you never can tell where you can go from there. You can apply for various job roles and stuff like that. Fast forward. Okay, so let me bring out the pencil so that. So we already covered, the fundamentals earlier in February. So we already covered the fundamentals earlier in February. Now we have moved on to, we've moved on to the intermediate level courses. So we'll be looking at, today, for instance, we'll be looking at how you can design your Microsoft 365 tenants. And then, the following weeks or the following Saturdays, we'll be looking at, how you can configure your Microsoft 365 tenants, manage the tenants, explore Microsoft 365 platform services, plan and implement, and then implement applications and external access and all of that. So we'll be looking at various scenarios and how you can actually go about planning towards having an organization adopt or use Microsoft 365, right? As we proceed through the whole process, it may be new to some of us, so do not be afraid to ask questions. I would also be giving us access to or links where you can, set up your own demo environment. You can play around with it. You can, run your tests and all of that. See what, get an actual feel of Microsoft 365, right? And then, so after our intermediate courses, we would now be having the advanced later in September this year. So preparing you for the MS 101 exam. So it's more advanced and all of that. And then that now ends the modern workplace course track, basically. Some key takeaways. So for those who might have written the MS 900 exam, which was what we prepared for when we had the fundamentals course, right? They can apply for job roles like, Microsoft 365 technical support engineer or Microsoft 365 support trainee and so on and so forth. For the intermediate track, yet again, like I mentioned, you're preparing to write the MS1, you're preparing to write the MS 100 exam. And then for the advanced track, you're preparing to write the MS 101 exam. So basically, at the end of the day, you can apply for roles that relate to, Microsoft 365 technical support engineer, M365 support trainee roles, M365 productivity solution specialist, M365 administrator, productivity engineer, M365 and SharePoint administrator, or senior Microsoft 365 technical support engineer, right? So, like I said, I currently work as a modern workplace engineer, which is basically, or simply put, a Microsoft 365 engineer, right? With one of the top Microsoft 365 partners, should I say, in the world. We like to call ourselves that. So yeah. So I would not be the only one facilitating these sessions. I would also be having my colleagues. So we have Sarah. She's actually my colleague. We work at the same company, right? So she's also a modern workplace engineer. She's a Microsoft 365 analyst. She's skilled in, PowerShell, and she's also a Microsoft certified trainer, right? And then we also have Mrs. Jumoke. So Mrs. Jumoke is, she specializes in modern workplace. She's an MVP, so most valuable professional with Microsoft. So that's a very huge accomplishment, meaning this is somebody that has been recognized by Microsoft for doing, amazing things with the Microsoft technology around modern workplace. She's also a Microsoft certified trainer, and in case you didn't know, she's also the co-founder of Textilers. So she may not be taking any of the sessions for this intermediate course, but I believe she would be for the advanced or the expert level courses. So you can join classes at any point, and then it's one of the three of us that is actually facilitating that day. So do not be scared. It's either me, Sarah, or Mrs. Jumoke. Okay. So finally, done with the introductions. We can go straight into today's session, right? What we have prepared for you for today. So yeah. Prior to that, do we have any questions? Does anybody have any doubts or what have you? Or we can just proceed. Okay, since
Hello.
everybody's, yes, please.
Hello. Hello. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Yes, good
Good
morning.
morning, our instructor. God bless you for this opportunity again. Sorry, I don't have much question. It's just that the only thing on behalf of everybody, I want to appreciate this team and for bringing up this opportunity again for another time for us to learn from you, from your experience and every other in order to get better in the market. Because I personally, I want to tell you that I really appreciate it because I need it more. Why did I say so? For example, just of recent, just like last week, I did an interview with a company called S Life.
Okay.
By the time they will come back where as an IT support person, but by the time they will come back with feedback to me after 3 weeks or after 3 weeks of the interview, all what they told me is that my interview was 99%, my score was 99%. Are we there? My
Yes.
score was 99%, 99%. But what the only clause that I have that they will not be able to choose me is because that 1% that is left is what if that is the only 1% I have that they want, which is the cloud computing area part. If that is the only one I have the average of it, and that 99% may not be relevant to them, as in I was down, my sister.
Oh,
I
wow.
was down. So that is why I said so. They said because I don't have cloud computing experience, even though I've done as a certificate in Azure Fundamental and Admin, as in last year November. Yet they just told me that I don't have much experience of work hands on
Experience.
in cloud computing. So for that reason, they are sorry they will not be able to go ahead with the application. I was very down because this is my 8 years as an IT support. I am still where I am, in which I too
Wow.
personally am not happy, but that is how I met it.
Oh,
So
wow.
I really appreciate everybody for this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time to actually share your experience so far.
So that's all. I really appreciate. You can go ahead.
Yes. All right then. Thank you very much. So yes, for these sessions, we really, everyone is, it's like, should I say it's, everyone is just trying to come together to, help in actually even putting us on the right path with regards to cloud technology, right? And then that's why I said we also want it to be as practical as possible. So we won't just be saying, okay, you can do this, you can do that, you can study on this path, this is what it means and all of that. But we actually even share guides on how you can create your own demo environment. And the benefit of having that demo environment is that, even if you're studying for an exam, right? Even if you're studying for one of the cloud certification exams, you would actually have a place where you can play around with some of the things you have learned, right? There's a difference between just reading or just hearing about something or just seeing something and actually practicalizing it, actually putting it into practice. When you put it into practice, it actually sticks. And when you put it into practice, what happens is that you actually have questions to follow up on or to follow up with. So thank you so much, sir, for sharing that. I hope that after our sessions and the various trainings to come, that, you know, it would help you to be better prepared for, you know, future interviews and all of that. So yeah, thank you. Okay, so moving forward, right? So today we'll be looking at how you can design your Microsoft 365 tenants. This is what we are covering for day one. So under this, we have various aspects. You know, plan your tenants in Microsoft 365. How can you plan your tenants? How can you plan your on-premises infrastructure for Microsoft 365? How can you plan your identity and authentication solution for Microsoft 365? How can you plan your supporting infrastructure for Microsoft 365? How can you plan hybrid requirements? And then how can you plan data migration? So, for, you know, all of this, like I said, this is what is covered, what we are trying to cover in day one. It looks like it's actually a lot. When you look at it, it's actually a lot. I did not prepare a slide for each of them. So instead, we're going to be walking through the Microsoft Learn, right? The resources on Microsoft Learn. And then we would now be looking at the practical section, right? So I actually have a lab that is created where we get to see some of these things and all of that. So for the fundamentals, we were looking at, when we had the fundamental courses, if any of us here attended any of the fundamental courses, we're looking at you know, basic things like, oh, what is cloud computing, right? What is Microsoft 365? How can you create a user? How can you create a group? How can you, you know, manage your users, like, you know, reset their passwords and stuff like that? How can you even create your own tenants, your own demo environment, right? You know, test stuff, you know, and all of that. How can you do all of that? So now, moving on to the intermediate level, we believe that, you know, we can go even more advanced. So intermediate level is like, okay, how can you plan for your tenant in Microsoft 365? So it's one thing, it's just like, for example, you need to buy a particular service. Microsoft 365 has various plans, right? So not every plan will fit every organization. For example, I can belong to an organization that we are only 5 people, and we just want to be able to send and receive emails, to have that professional feel, to be able to, you know, use Word, Excel, PowerPoint, the licensed versions and all of that, right? We want to be able to collaborate internally using Microsoft Teams, have our meetings, you know, we want to have that professional feel, right? And since we're a small organization, the Microsoft partner can just suggest that, oh, okay, you don't need to buy an enterprise Microsoft 365 plan for, since your organization is this small, you're just starting out and all of that. You can get like a Microsoft 365 business basic plan, right? And they are good to go. They have their emails, they have Microsoft Teams, you have your SharePoint, OneDrive, and you know, you're being productive and the company is growing from there. However, the story will be different if it's like a bank, for example. A bank wants to move to Microsoft 365. Maybe they already have, most of these banks you see have their server rooms and all of that. And they actually manage their resources, most of their resources by themselves, right, in-house. So now they decide that, oh, okay, they finally seen the value in Microsoft 365. Oh, let's move to Microsoft 365. The conversation will be different, right? So a bank, for example, would not use a basic Microsoft 365 business basic plan, because even business basic has like a limit of 300 users. You cannot have more than 300 users per license. So a bank will be looking like having an enterprise plan, so that they can even have enterprise security. They can have more mailbox space per user. They can have, you know, all the enterprise tools, the analytics tools and all of that. And the good thing is that they can even decide to mix and match, because, you know, for example, most banks have like what we call contract staffs. So the contract staff may not need to have access to all the tools, the same tools that every bank has access to. So that's the good thing about Microsoft 365. You can mix and match, right? And then you also have, if you're looking at it from an enterprise level too, right? Some of this, like I said, most of these enterprise organizations, if you're talking of banks and what have you, they have servers on their premises, meaning that if they have servers on their premises, then they probably already manage their users on their premises. So how do you integrate that with Microsoft 365? How, because you don't want the users are managing okay, if I want to log into my computer, I use our on-premises username and password. But if I want to access my mails, now that we are on Microsoft 365, I will be having another password, or I'll be managing another identity. No, we want to have like an identity synchronization, that anything, if I reset my password on Microsoft 365, then it should also be reset on premises, so that the same password I'm using to log into my laptop is going to be the same password I use all through for like maybe my other work applications. So everything just syncs seamlessly. And that thing doesn't happen by magic. It's not just by a click of a button. There are certain things you need to plan for. There are different scenarios. There are certain, as the administrator, there are certain things you need to do and you need to know, right, to be able to get that to work. And then, how can you support the infrastructure? How can you plan for data migration? Maybe if you're talking of a bank, so many banks have existed for many years. For example, say First Bank. I know First Bank is over 125. I think they clocked 125 in like maybe 2018 or so. And, you can't say First Bank that has existed for over 100 years has not used mail. Of course, they've been making use of email. Maybe they had their own email service and all of that. It might have had some issues and what have you, right? But now they want to move to Microsoft 365. No company would want to lose their past data. They will want you to migrate that data. Okay, even though we are moving to Microsoft 365, or even though we are moving to this new platform, we want our past information to still be available to us, right? So how do we do that, right? How can you help us to do that and all of that, right? So how can you plan for migration to Microsoft 365? We'll be looking at that also. So like I said earlier, instead of placing all of this in slides, most of this information is available in Microsoft Learn. So instead, I placed it in the links in this short slide available, and that's what we're going to be using to touch on some of these key areas. I would share, how can you create your own test, your own lab environment, right? So that as you're learning on Microsoft Learn, you would actually be practicing what you are learning, right? And so that to prepare you for the next class, where we now have, we can take questions, we can go into more demo sessions and all of that, and so on and so forth. So, sorry, hold on. Okay, so these are two links. The first link gives you access to the entire curriculum for MS 100, while the second link is for today's class. So we will always have a breakdown first before we now actually look at what each day session is meant to cover. So I will just go ahead and open this up, this card. Sorry. Okay, so this is one of the links. This is the first link that is in the slide. I would upload this slide to the slide we use. I will upload it to our Microsoft Teams, should I say, chat, right? So everybody has access to it, and you can always learn at your own pace. You can always still catch up and all of that if there's any area that is not clear to you. So MS 100, Microsoft 365 identity and services, preparing. If you scroll down, you'll see skills measured. So how can you design and implement Microsoft 365 services? How can you manage user identity and roles? How can you manage access and authentication? And then how can you plan for Office 365 workloads and applications? So if you scroll down further, you will see that the site tells you that there are two ways to prepare. So you can prepare online free, which is what we are doing right now. Actually, we're trying to use the free resources that we have access to. So we are starting with this particular path, this learning path, which is design your Microsoft 365 tenants. Next week, we'll look at how you can configure your Microsoft 365 tenants. The following week, how you can manage your Microsoft 365 tenant, and so on and so forth. So starting with this, I already have the link open here. So I'll just do like a quick run through, and then we go into the demo session. Now, before I do that, I would like to, for those of us that do not already have like your own lab environment, right? You know, I mentioned that having your lab environment is very important because it allows you to test stuff as we are proceeding, as you learn, as you're studying, as you're, you know, gathering knowledge on this cloud technology, right? So having your own test environment allows you to actually make your new knowledge stick, right? And helps you gather questions. Oh, okay, I tried to do this thing, it didn't work. What did I do wrong? That kind of stuff. So if you do not already have your test environment, I would like you to go to developer.microsoft.com. So you sign up for the Microsoft 365. Hold on. Let me get the right link. Sorry, give me a second. Aha. So I'll share this link with us also. So over here, if you do not already have a test tenant, right, which is like it actually gives you an enterprise version of Microsoft 365. So you can now create users, delete users, manage your environment, and so on. Sorry, someone trying to say something? Your mic is on. Please, can we mute our mic? If you don't have any questions, can you mute your mic, please? Thank you. Okay, so if you do not already have a demo environment, then I will share this link with us. You know, come over here and then just click on join now, right? It will ask you to sign up for the demo environment using your free Microsoft account. So when it says Microsoft, you can use the account that you used to sign up for Textilers for this training. You can use that to sign up for this demo environment. If you already created your lab environment in the fundamentals class, it should have been, because it's free for I think 3 months. So, but what I noticed is that it got auto renewed. Like mine, I set up mine during the fundamentals class, and I got an email that, you know, the demo, the dev environment was automatically renewed. So I didn't need to do anything. My username remains the same, my password remains the same. So you get access to like the enterprise version of Microsoft 365, right? So you just click on join now, and then it will walk you through you know, easy steps. It will ask you, what account do you want to log in using, and all of that, and then, you know, you can sign up. So just use the same um, email address. You can use the same email address that you used to sign up for this class to set this up, right? I will place it in the slide also, so that set up a developer tenant. or a demo tenant. Let me change it to demo tenant. So I'm placing all the helpful links in here so that everyone has access to it when you're going through at the end of the day. Okay. So let me show you what the demo tenant actually looks like. So once you've successfully set up your demo environment, right, it will bring you to a home page similar to this. So this is actually like the Microsoft 365 homepage, right? You can see that I just went to a link. I just typed in portal.office.com. I'm already signed in. So, and it brought me here. So from here, if I click on the app launcher by the top left, I can see Outlook. I can see OneDrive for business. I can see Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint. I can see the admin console. So from the admin console, I can easily manage services in this environment. I can create users, I can delete users, I can create groups, I can delete groups, I can, set up multi-factor authentication. That's like a security, and an advanced security, extra layer of security for users. I can set up compliance policies. I can do basically everything. I can do my data analytics using Power BI. I can build an in-house application and so on and so forth. So, and this is what the admin, so if from the home page, if you click on admin, it will open up the admin center. So this is what the admin center looks like. This is where I was saying you can view your active users, you can view your contacts, you can view guest users, deleted users. You can even send a support ticket to Microsoft from here, right? You have access to the security admin center, the compliance admin center, endpoint manager, and so on and so forth. So this is the demo. This is actually the demo environment, but it gives you the real life feel, right? Of this is the same look and feel that the administrator for First Bank or the administrator for, a top organization around the world that uses Microsoft 365. This is the same view that they have, right? So imagine if you're able to, get an understanding of what this entire of what you can do in this platform, then you will basically be able to defend at any interview that, oh yes, if I want to do this, I come here to do that. If I want to do that, you basically would be able to defend anything you're doing, right? Because you have an understanding of what the environment actually looks like. So I just wanted to show us that what the demo environment looks like. So I've placed the link. I'll share the slide with us at the end of the class, like I said earlier, so we can just proceed. Okay, so our focus today is around, designing your Microsoft 365 tenants. Like I said, I will advise us to, even after today's class, I will share the link. The link for this is already in the slide. So I will advise that you actually take your time to go through this, right? Because we won't be able to touch on every single detail, but you take your time to go through this. And the good thing about it is that on this platform, as you complete a certain level in your learning, it advances your it gives you points. So it basically gives you points. And if Microsoft should be having like a free voucher, for you to get access to a free voucher, you must have up to maybe, for example, 7,000 points, right? So this is where you get those points, where you gather those points from this platform. So as you take each module, as you go through each learning module, each learning phase, then it gives you extra points and you can build on that. So the first area in here is how can you plan your tenant in Microsoft 365? What is even a tenant, right? So we're looking at what is actually even a tenant. And I'll just go straight into it. So introduction, a tenant is basically a term used in Microsoft 365 organization. It's basically saying that you have, as an organization, you have a relationship with Microsoft, right? So a tenant is unique, is what separates each organization from the other. So First Bank, for example, will have their own unique tenant. Avanade will have its own unique tenant. And even if someone has a printing shop, for example, adeprints.com, and he buys a Microsoft 365 subscription, he will have his own tenant. So, and a tenant is given to you, a tenant name, you choose your tenant name when you are setting up your Microsoft 365 subscription. So your tenant name is unique to you. It cannot be changed. Once you set up your initial tenant name, you cannot change it, but you can always have custom, you can always add custom domain names and what have you. So it's good for you to, when you are trying to plan for Microsoft 365, plan to deploy Microsoft 365, you need to understand that you need to set up your tenant, and your tenant name cannot be changed. So you have to make sure that you choose your name wisely. And basically, when we say the word tenant is basically it's just like a term used to, like, the tenant stores the users in your company and information about them. So information like your user password, your profile data, permissions, and so on and so forth. It also contains your groups, applications, and other information that are related to your organization and security. So, and then when you have that general idea of what a tenant is, because if you are setting up, so for those of us that have not set up your demo environment yet, when you walk through the steps to set up your demo, you will see that it will create a tenant name for you. Because it's a demo environment, you can't change the tenant name. It gives you a default tenant name that you can't change. But the thing about that default tenant name is that it's only accessible by you and by anybody you give access to. So even if it's a demo environment, it doesn't mean that anybody else can have access to it. No, it is secure. You still have that security that you are assured of if you had paid for the service, the actual service with Microsoft, right? So yes. So now looking at some of the subscription options with Microsoft 365. In Microsoft 365, I sort of even mentioned this earlier. So you can have, depending on your scenario, depending on your environment, right? If you are having, for example, now it's a small business, we spoke about having a small business, maybe it's even a print shop, but that print shop is like a sophisticated print shop. They want to be able to send and receive emails using a custom domain name with the security that is assured or guaranteed by Microsoft 365, by Microsoft. They want to be able to host meetings, right? You want to be able to host meetings. You want to be able to upload documents. A print shop, you have people sending you documents from time to time. Oh, help us type this, help us create a CV, or help us create job application, or stuff like that, right? You have so many people going to print shops for different reasons. Now, the print shop wants to appear standard. They can decide to have a Microsoft 365 business plan. So they can buy a Microsoft 365 business license. And this just gives them, as you can read here, it says Microsoft 365 business subscription. It targets small and medium-sized organizations that need a cloud collaboration solution and have up to 300 users. So the maximum number of users is 300, right? So if the organization has more than 300 users, then they will be considering a Microsoft 365 enterprise plan, right? So an enterprise plan gives them access to enterprise options or enterprise solutions, right? And then we also have Microsoft 365 education plan. So the education plan is for schools, just like the name already suggests, right? So it's for schools. If you have an actual school that is registered and all of that, you actually get access to use Microsoft 365 for free, right? Once Microsoft is able to verify that, oh, this is actually a school, right? They now give you that actual the access to the Microsoft platform for free. So you can host classes using Microsoft 365. You can have your your teachers have their email addresses. You can collaborate on Microsoft Teams and all of that using the Microsoft 365 education plans. Now, the Microsoft 365 business, there are different plans that fall under Microsoft 365 business. Microsoft 365 business is just like a general, should I say, name. And then there are now different plans that fall, or subscriptions that fall under Microsoft 365 business. The first one is we have Microsoft 365 apps for business. So, for example, if you write the exam, they can tell you, oh, okay, a user wants to be able to, they only want access to Outlook, like they want to be able to download Outlook, they want to be able to download the verified version of Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and what have you. They want a license that they want to be able to access these applications on up to 5 mobile devices, up to 5 tablets, and up to 5 PCs. And they want a solution that automatically updates. So if Microsoft brings a new version of this Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, then they should get the latest version as it's coming out. Then what plan? They now ask, oh, okay, what plan should this user go for? The plan that you will suggest is Microsoft 365 apps for business, because this plan gives them access to the desktop version of Office apps. They can store and share files with up to 1 terabyte of OneDrive cloud storage per user, right? You can use one license to cover fully installed Office apps on 5 mobile, 5 tablets, 5 PCs, and 5 MacBooks per user. And then you can automatically update your apps with new features and capabilities every month. So all of this you can do with Microsoft 365 apps for business. Another subscription under the Microsoft 365 business umbrella is Microsoft 365 Business Basic. So this Business Basic gives users access to a 50 gig mailbox, right? They can have their custom email address. So for example, we spoke about the print shop. If the print shop decides that they want to have email, they want to have like the certified or the web version of Word, Excel, PowerPoint, they want to have access to OneDrive, cloud storage, and they want to be able to collaborate with their team members, host meetings, and co. Even though they are just 10 users, they can subscribe to the Microsoft 365 Business Basic plan. So Business Basic allows them to have access to all these services that you see listed. Just that, so the difference between Business Basic and apps for business is that, so Business Basic allows the users have access to, Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, but it's only the web version. So when we say web version, let me show you what the web version looks like. Over here, this is the homepage for Microsoft 365. We had Outlook, OneDrive, Word, and co. So if I click on Word, this will open Microsoft Word in the cloud. So this is what Microsoft Word in the cloud looks like. I'm opening it on my browser. I can, as I'm working, my documents are being saved automatically, right? And it means that I don't need to have the desktop version for this. I can create documents, I can share those documents with my team members, and so on and so forth, and everyone is good to go, right? Unlike the desktop version that, oh, okay, I have Microsoft Word installed on my desktop. If I'm not with that laptop, I can't create a document, right? You can also have it on your mobile device. So many people these days have Microsoft Word on their mobile phones. So if you're on the go, you can still create a document. You can still share that document with your team members, and so on and so forth. So that's what the online version this is what the online version looks like. So you have access to all of this, but it is online, right? That's the Business Basic. But with apps for business, you can download and install the applications on your computer, on your PC, and then you download and install them on your PC. You can still share right from your PC with your team members. You can share with instead of always attaching documents to emails or attaching documents to whatever platform you want to use, right? You can just share directly from the document and the users have access to it. Then we also have Microsoft 365 Business Standard. So Business Standard also, it has 50 gig mailbox. It has, Teams, everything that Business Basic comes with. But the difference is that you get access to the desktop version of Office apps, meaning you can download and install the desktop version of Microsoft 365 apps. So you can download and install Outlook, you can download and install Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and you also still have access to it in the cloud. So if you are traveling, for example, you can still log into portal.office.com, you sign in, and you have access to your emails, you have access to Word, you can create your Word document, you can see the documents you've created even when you were using your desktop and you were not connected to the internet initially. So once you connect to the internet, everything syncs to the cloud, and then you can access all the updated versions as you proceed. Then we also have Business Premium. So Business Premium, sorry. Yeah, so Business Premium has all the functionality of Business Standard, but also comes with advanced security. So you get access to advanced security, you get access to the latest version of Windows. So with Business Premium, you can install the latest version of Windows on your user's PC. And mind you, these licenses are per user. So what that means is that if you have 100 users in your organization and those 100 users need to be able to send and receive emails, need to be able to collaborate, and so on and so forth, then it means you need to get 100 of those licenses, right? You can get those licenses directly from Microsoft. You can get them from a Microsoft partner, right? Depending on your country and all of that. You can get them directly from Microsoft or from a Microsoft partner. Then we have Microsoft 365 Enterprise. Like I said, why companies that use the enterprise version of Microsoft 365 are probably companies that need advanced security, or they have more than 300 users. Take note of that 300 users. If you want to proceed to write an exam or what have you, or even at an interview, they can be like, oh, okay, our organization has, we are currently 500 users. We want to be able to use Microsoft 365 service and all of that. What plan would you suggest we go for, right? The mere fact that they are already 500 users, they are over 300, then any plan you suggest to them must be an enterprise, Microsoft 365 enterprise plan, right? So some of the subscriptions available under the enterprise plan, we have Office 365 E3, we have Office 365 E5, we have Office 365 F3, we have Microsoft 365 apps for enterprise. So if you scroll down, you can still see, you'll see more details about, okay, what differentiates these plans from each other? What are the advanced features they have? It even comes with PSTN conferences. So what that means is that users are able to dial into a meeting. For example, as we're having this training, if someone is having an internet issue, we can share a phone number, right? Assuming if we have an enterprise plan and we've already set up conferencing, the basic things that are required to place calls, right? We can create a phone number for this meeting room so that if anybody gets disconnected, you just pick up your phone and you dial that number, and instantly it will add you to this call, and you continue to listen in on the meeting, you continue to listen in on the call as if you never got disconnected in the first place. Just that you can't see, if there's a presentation going on, you can't see it, but you can hear. So it's like you're having a call, you're dialing into the meeting basically. And then, we also have Microsoft 365 apps for enterprise. So it's also similar to the apps for business that we spoke about earlier. So it includes online version of Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and so on and so forth. It's good to have a basic understanding of most of these subscriptions. Like I said, today we are looking at planning. So how do you plan, right? How do you plan for the deployment of Microsoft 365? And an important part of planning is having the right license in place. How do you plan to have the right license, right? So we also have this subscription called Enterprise Mobility and Security. So Enterprise Mobility and Security is basically giving you access to an enterprise level security feature, right? Giving you access to, you have cloud app security, you have advanced threat protection, you have compliance policies. It allows you to protect your environment even more. And it comes with, so it can be bought as a standalone subscription, but it also comes with Microsoft 365 E5, one of the enterprise plans that we have. So Office 365 E5 subscription comes with this enterprise mobility and security feature we are talking about. We call it EMS for short. So that's really it. And then you can still explore most of these options when you go back to study it. And then we have the Microsoft 365 education plan. So I mentioned earlier it has to be a certified school, because Microsoft to confirm, oh, okay, yes, that this school is actually registered and all of that. So it's Microsoft basically offers subscription for education, non-profit, and government institutions. And then we even have Microsoft 365 Home. So if you wanted to just have the subscription for home use, right? So there's also a home plan available. So that's really it on like some of the licenses that we have access to. And then moving on to, I mentioned briefly about Microsoft 365 Enterprise Mobility and Security. So what is Enterprise Mobility and Security? It's basically Enterprise Mobility and Security, or EMS for short. There are components that are included with, Microsoft 365 Enterprise. I mentioned earlier that the enterprise plan, the plan used by enterprise organizations, has more advanced security features than the basic business plans, right? So it has more advanced security features. And some of the services that come with this enterprise plan, some of them include all Microsoft 365 subscriptions come with Azure Active Directory. So Azure Active Directory is basically the platform that is used to manage the identity of users. It manages the identity of users in Microsoft 365. So when we say identity, we are talking of the email addresses, the passwords. If you wanted to set up like you want to allow your users to be able to reset their passwords, you want to configure conditional access policies, for example, you want to have two-step verification or multi-factor authentication. So what multi-factor authentication means is that, as a user now, I want to sign into my mailbox, right? I have my username, I have my password, I enter it. Now, as an extra layer of security, because what happens is that if a hacker gets access to your password, then that's it. They just log in, they have access, they can do and undo. But if you have an extra layer of security, which is multi-factor authentication, when the user enters the email address and the password, the system will now ask them for a code that has either been sent to maybe your phone number as a text message. Microsoft can call you to say, oh, okay, we noticed you're trying to sign in. Can you please press this key to confirm that it is you? Or it can be an application. So there's the Authenticator app. You can install it on your phone, connect it to your Microsoft 365 account, and then going forward, when you try to access your Microsoft 365 account from like an unknown device, the system will always ask you, oh, please, a code has been sent, provide this code, before it will give you access to your environment. So if you do not provide that code, you can't access the environment. And all these services are managed by or managed in the Microsoft Azure Active Directory. So as you can see here, Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, we call it Azure AD for short, right? So all these services are managed in Azure AD. All versions of Microsoft 365 come with Microsoft Azure Active Directory subscription. So we have the basic, we have premium, no, we have free, Microsoft Azure Active Directory free, we have the basic, we have premium, and as you proceed, like as you go, the enterprise, the Microsoft 365 enterprise plans, right? The enterprise E3, enterprise E5, and so on and so forth. They have a higher version of Azure Active Directory. So they have a premium version of Azure Active Directory, which is why they now have more security features compared to the basic plans that we have. So when you are trying to set up Microsoft 365 for your organization, you need to know, okay, which plan is going to suit my company best, which plan is going to give us more security, which plan is going to give us more, access to create more compliance rules and stuff like that, right? So if you are going for a plan that comes with like a basic version of Azure Active Directory, for example, you can't expect that you can set up high level compliance policies, right? Or that you can set up high level, should I say, security policies and so on and so forth. So the higher you go, the higher you go, the more security features you get access to. So, and then we also, as still part of the enterprise mobility plus security suite, right? We also have identity protection. EMS comes with identity protection also. So this is the part of the security that basically detects potential vulnerabilities affecting identity. So you can protect your environment in such a way that if there is any suspicious login activity, right, the system, you can set up rules that will allow the system to flag it, to send notifications that, oh, okay, we noticed a suspicious login activity and so on and so forth, right? You can set up conditional access policies that, oh, unless this user, for example, you're saying that unless this user is located in Nigeria, or unless this user is located in Europe, they shouldn't be able to access their email. So if your user should, or if your user's account should be hacked from Russia, for example, or hacked by a user in Iceland or wherever, right? Maybe the person is using a VPN and they are in another country or what have you. Because you have set that policy in place, you have set that conditional access policy in place, right? That person, the hacker, will not be able to access the user's details, will not be able to access that particular application. Maybe it can be the email, it can be OneDrive, where they have their documents, and so on and so forth, because they've already filled that particular rule that, oh, if you are not in this location, you cannot access this service. Then we also have privileged identity management. So so it basically helps to minimize the number of people who have persistent access to privileged operations. In Microsoft technology, we try to use like oh, what's the name of this stuff? So it's basically giving access, unless a user requires access, then do not grant them that access to that solution. For example, maybe you're working in an IT team, right? You are in the IT team, but you are an intern, right? You just started working with a particular organization, you are an intern, and your boss needs you to be able to reset passwords, reset users' passwords. If there are basic things like, oh, okay, maybe one of your staff just got married, you need to be able to help the staff to change their surname and stuff like that. That's a basic admin functionality. It doesn't mean that they should now give you global administrator rights. a global admin can do and undo. A global admin can reset everyone's password. A global admin can, even give themselves access to, maybe they can give themselves access to like a document repository, for example. They can create various services. They can do and undo in the environment, basically, right? So you want to give users like the least privilege. So since this user only needs to be able to reset users' passwords, then why don't you make them a password administrator, right? Or since they need to be able to change users' name, then you can make them a user administrator, right? So that it just limits their access to that task. So the person cannot do beyond that. They don't have any other business outside of resetting passwords and stuff like that. And then we still have Azure Information Protection. So basically this allows to, protect what's it called, documents, or protect data within the organization. So you can set up, it helps organizations to classify, to label, protect their documents and emails, right? So it can be done automatically by admins, it can be done by users, and so on and so forth. Then we have Microsoft Intune. Some of us you might not know what Intune is. So Intune is basically a platform that is used to manage users' devices. So it allows to protect users' devices. So you can have mobile application management or mobile device management. So in cases where right now lots of people are working remotely, lots of people are working from home, you are having bring your own device. Bring your own device really means that maybe you're working for a company, but you are using your phone. You want to use your phone to be able to access company data. You coming with your phone and telling IT, oh, please, can you help me sign in, or can you help me set up my email on my phone, so that even if I'm on the go, I can still access my mails, I can still be productive. That's a bring your own device scenario, right? Or even when you have been assigned a corporate owned device, that corporate owned device, it can be a laptop. It doesn't mean that you can only access that laptop when you go to the office. Okay, when you go to the office, the laptop is there, you use it. At the end of the day, you go home, you don't carry the laptop home with you. No, it's usually like when people go to the office, they're assigned, maybe you start a new job, you're assigned a laptop. You can go home with it, because you might have projects that you need to work on, you need to research during the weekends and stuff like that. So how can IT ensure that company data is protected, right? How can they manage access to company data, right? So that's where you have Intune. So Intune comes to give that device management capability, right? So you can protect user devices, you can push applications. Maybe there's a new application that has been deployed for a certain team, and then you can push it to them, and so on and so forth. So that's the idea behind Microsoft Intune. And the good thing about this is that as you proceed with each should I say each module in this Microsoft Learn, you get like a quick knowledge check. So quick questions. Oh, okay, which of the following enterprise mobility plus security components, like quick questions just to help you confirm that what you've learned has actually stuck, right? So let me go back here. Okay, no, hold on. Okay. So there are various, like I said, there are various things that help you to plan for your Microsoft 365 service, right? So getting the right license goes a very long way, depending on the type of organization that you are in. And then it's good for you to have an understanding of what are the different types of licenses that are even available, right? Why would I choose this license instead of taking this other one? And of course, it's important to note that each of them have different cost also, right? So cost is also a key factor, right? And then, but the good thing is that with Microsoft 365, you can mix plans. So you can decide that, oh, not everybody needs an enterprise plan. Not everybody needs not everybody needs to use Microsoft Teams, for example. Not everybody needs to use Power Apps or Power Platform, right? So you can mix plans. There are various plans. There are various options available to you. So the next part, after you decide on okay, what license we need to have, the next part is now how can you plan for your data migration. So we are coming from organization A, we want to now move to Microsoft 365, but we already have existing data. So how can we move our data from Microsoft 365 to, sorry, how can we move our data from, maybe for example, our servers that are on premises, or maybe we've been using Gmail. Yeah, let me use Gmail. We've been using Gmail. Now we want to move to the enterprise Microsoft 365. How can we move our data, right? So you need to plan for your data migration if it's not a fresh setup. So this is an image that shows us like a strategic planning cycle. So you first of all decide what are your goals as an organization. What are the organization goals? Where do you want to go? What are you trying to achieve? Is it a new company? If it's a new company entirely, then you don't need to plan for migration. You are just going to set up. You will just, decide what the organization will just decide what Microsoft 365 plan they want to use, and then they go ahead to, start configuring, set up their tenants, create users and all of that. But if it's an organization that's been existing since and they already have an emailing solution or they already have a collaboration solution, it means that they need to plan for data migration. So what are the goals? Where do we want to go? What's the desired outcome? How do we get there? Right? What are our strategies and how do we measure our targets? Like, how do we set targets and then measure it? And then finally, how do we reach our results? Right? So this is how you come about the thinking process for data migration in Microsoft 365. Actually, this thinking process works for anything really. So if you're trying to meet a particular target, you need to first of all decide what are your goals, what do you want the outcome to be, how do you want to achieve that goal, right? What are your targets? What are the measures you want to put in place? What are the targets? And then how do you achieve your results? So, and if it's even possible to improve, then you go ahead to start all over again, coming up with your goals and so on and so forth. So, yeah, so that's like the thinking process behind it. You're looking at first of all looking at, oh, okay, what plan do you want to purchase, taking up an inventory of your current environment. You're looking at how to make key deployment decisions, like how do you want users to access their data and so on and so forth. And then if you're migrating from one platform to Microsoft 365, how do you want them to be able to, do you want to move all their data? Do you want to move some of their data, or do you not want to move any data at all? So these are key things you need to consider. So that's how that's the area on plan your tenants in Microsoft 365. I don't know if we have any questions so far, or if we have any doubts, if you have any questions so far. Okay, I'll take that as none. So moving forward, there are still other. Sorry.
Hello.
Okay. Yes, please.
I was pointing my hand now. Maybe you can listen.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, I want to ask the question.
Okay.
You said different areas of standard of what is it called? 365.
Yes.
How this the last one you talked about was about home edition, right? Home standard, or how do you call it?
Yeah. The home plan.
The home plan. Sorry. There is this small organization that called me for that I used to assist in the area of technical, working with on their technical work. They are like a franchise to my organization. I work with AXA
Okay.
Master Insurance. So, personal business between me and them. They wanted to, what is it called? They were opportune to get, their boss was opportune to get, what's it called? Office 365 license.
Okay.
Because he noticed that he needs his business is getting to a state whereby he will need to be. He wanted to have a SharePoint whereby the few of them that are in that small organization will be able to always access their information together. They'll be putting their information together in the same place. Anyone they want to make reference to, they'll be able to make reference to it, even when not in the office, outside the office or in the office. So I told them that they will need to get a license, Office 365 license, so as
Yes.
for them to be able to have access to that SharePoint. So the SharePoint, can I call the SharePoint to be OneDrive in that case, or SharePoint on its own? Can
Okay.
in that kind of what's it called? In that kind of scenario, can we use
Scenario.
OneDrive for them as a share folder for the small business?
Okay. So since it's a small business, right? There are various ways that they can actually achieve that their goal, right? So one way is they can take advantage of like OneDrive folders. If it's say individual wants to be able to create documents, place them in a folder and make those documents available to like their team members, right? They
Sorry,
can
sorry, to,
use,
sorry to cut you short, man. The challenge I'm
yes,
having is that I don't know if it will work. The license that he got was home edition, and I think according to them, they told me that he can share the home edition with 5 users.
they can actually.
With 5 users. So if I want to share with 5 users, is it the same? Is there a particular email address that the account have been registered with, or he has registered with a different account for the different 5 users, or to be
So
able to access your OneDrive?
yeah, okay, that's a good one. First of all, I would say that I'll start by saying that they are actually not using the right Microsoft 365 subscription.
Okay.
Since it's an organization, right? It would have been better if they are using like a Microsoft 365 business basic plan, or even if it's just the apps they need access to, then if they are just using the Microsoft 365 apps for business, right? And the reason behind that is that unlike the home edition, with the business subscription, right? With the business subscription, they get to use their custom domain name. So it's more
Which is individual's name, Abi?
yeah, no, so not even individuals' name. So they can have one account,
Okay.
right? They can have one account. I mentioned earlier that, for example, with apps for business, if you read through the link that we're going through just now, with apps for business, you can have, so one license gives you access to install office tools on up to 5 devices. So that's what
Okay.
he's trying to say.
Okay.
So he
Okay.
has one license, and with that one license, he can install Office on up to five
Okay. Okay.
five mobile devices. Yes.
Okay, no,
Okay.
okay,
All
on
right.
5 mobile
John, please
devices.
let me add a bit to it. Hello, John.
Yes, please.
All right, thank you. So, to your question,
Yes,
now
sir.
the first thing is this: the home edition they bought is actually for a family,
For family,
Exactly.
yes, yes,
so
yes.
you can't use it for a business environment. Now, the business, if you want to buy for business, like you said, the least you can buy is basic. Now, for the other one that is just app, and you said you can install on 5 different devices, it will mean that that person is only using probably maybe if you buy for just one license that gives you access to 5 devices, it means the person is only installing with is going to be using one email address across those
One
five
email address. Okay, that's what I
across
want
those
to.
across those 5 devices. Now, in your scenario, you're painting an organization, a company environment.
Yes.
Now, for a company environment, the least they can buy in that scenario would be a basic. Now, when she says it gives you access to custom email, it means that, let's say that organization is ABC and they have a custom domain name that is abc.com. It means that if I have up to 10 people in that organization or even up to 5 people in the organization, an example would be my email address will be olajumoke@abc.com. Joan will be Joan at abc.com. You, Adiroju, will be Adiroju at abc.com. Now, you have a custom domain name that you can add. You can bring all of those users into your tenants, and then you can share your documents
For a
you can share
company
your
specific.
document comfortably. Now, when you're saying the difference between whether you can call it a SharePoint or a OneDrive, there are two things you need to understand when you're talking about SharePoint or OneDrive. OneDrive for business is actually a storage that an organization is giving to an individual person, to an individual
Yes.
staff of that organization. It's personal to them. It's personal to them. However, they have the ability to be able to share whatever files that is in their personal store to any other person in the organization. So I can have a OneDrive for business, and I decide that okay, I have a file I'm working on, and I want you, our Joan, to work on it. I can share that. However, for SharePoint is for the whole corporate organization, which means I can decide to create different sites representing what departments in the organization. Everybody can come into that and then be able to work on those documents. So it's like your SharePoint will replace what you call your file server, traditional file server. Hello,
Hi,
hello,
Mr.
can you?
Tunde. Are you with us?
I think he's the one that has the background noise. So
Yeah.
maybe if he's revisiting the recording, I'll just leave this. So ordinarily, what your SharePoint would do would be an environment that everybody in the organization can collaborate on. So once you have a SharePoint drive or maybe a site, and then you share it with everyone at once, everybody can come into it. You can also create sites as specific to departments so that it becomes like a document library for each of those departments. What your traditional file server would call like a map drives, or you call map drives, or network drives for people for each department. That's what your SharePoint. So the difference between OneDrive for business and SharePoint is that SharePoint is mostly like the corporate, is for the corporate organization, while the OneDrive for business is for individual user. However, that individual users can give access to whoever they want to give access to. So the both of them are actually they work pari passu, so they are like it's interchangeable. But more specifically, when you hear OneDrive for business, is because you're saying it is for that individual use of a staff, while your SharePoint is for the general use of the corporate environment. I hope this helps. So John, please go on.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, in the beginning, I spoke of Mrs. Jumoke. So, this is our Mrs. Jumoke. Thank you so much for joining today's class. Yes. Okay. So, going forward, though we have like just say, I would like us to round up by 12. So we don't have, it's not too much information we are trying to digest. So, so far we've looked at, a quick reintroduction to Microsoft 365, what your modern workplace looks like and all of that. And, how you can, the various Microsoft 365 plans, and how you can actually plan towards moving to Microsoft 365, depending on the sort of organization that you know, you are managing, or the sort of organization that, you know, you belong to, or you're trying to help to move to Microsoft 365, then like how can you consider what are the various plans that you can that are available to you, and how can you make the right decision with regards to those plans, what are the requirements and all of that. And then, you know, going forward, would also be looking at, you know, how can you prepare for identity management. So like your identity synchronization, do you want to manage your users in the cloud only, or do you want to, maybe if it's a corporate organization already that already exists, that has like a server on premises, you already manage your users identity, and now you want to now take advantage of Microsoft 365, what are the options that are available to you, right? So we are going to look at that going forward. So let's see what we are able to cover in the next 20 minutes, and then yeah, let me share my screen again. Okay, so I was speaking about, you know, planning for, you know, today we are just really talking about planning. Next week, we'll now look at how you can actually set up some of these things using the lab environment, right? We already have like we'll look at how you can set up, for example, Azure AD Connect to connect your on-premises identity, like to sync your on-premises identity to Microsoft 365, so that you can actually manage everything from one platform. So if you want to manage from the cloud, or you want to manage from on-premises, what are the various options, and so on and so forth. So now looking at how you can plan your identity and authentication solutions for Microsoft 365, right? So we're trying to, with this particular module, you're trying to, you know, describe what are the authentication behaviors even for Office 365 client apps when they connect to Exchange Online. What is multi-factor authentication, right? Although I briefly explained or introduced the idea of this earlier, you know, that having that extra layer of security. How can you plan for directory synchronization? So, and also Azure AD Connect pass-through authentication. So when we say directory synchronization, so that's like the scenario I mentioned earlier. So you have an organization, for example, that already has it's, you know, they already manage their users on premises. They have a server in their environment. They have applications that they've already connected. Users normally would just open their laptop, you know, they log in with their username and password. They can access the company's applications and resources and what have you. IT can easily manage those users. Now you want to introduce Microsoft 365 to this company. Does that mean that the users would now be managing multiple identities, right? So they want to log into Microsoft 365. They have a separate password than what they use to log in to, you know, their computer, or log into other apps that are managed by the organization. So it's possible for you to synchronize the identity to make them have a single sign-on, which every user would always appreciate. Nobody wants to be having multiple passwords, right? Nobody wants to, you know, be storing different passwords for various applications. Everybody wants to have the most seamless experience as possible. And it makes the work of the IT, the administrator, a lot easier, because if a user, for example, forgets their password, right, you can be sure that, oh, okay, if I reset the password on this platform, then it pushes down to all others. Then the user still has access to the same password and stuff like that. Then what are the options for, like, what is even password hash synchronization, right? And then how can you set up password hash synchronization for cloud authentication? What is federated authentication, or what is federated identity? What's the benefit of that? How can you plan for Azure AD single sign-on, right? So we're going to look at some of these things. How can you plan towards it before we now, the next week, we're going to now have like the practical section where you get to see, okay, where can I even configure all of this, right? How do I set up? At what point do I get to make that decision, right, when I'm configuring my environment? So I'll just come over to this area that says determine your cloud identity model. So first of all, I mentioned that, with Microsoft 365, it makes use of Azure Active Directory, that's Azure AD, right, to manage identities and authentication. So now, if you're moving to the cloud, right, if you want to take advantage of Microsoft 365, in the fundamentals class, we spoke about various types of I of cloud services. So we have public cloud, we have private cloud, we have hybrid. So public cloud is, you have access to a service. It's available to the public. Everybody can subscribe to it. For example, Microsoft 365 is on the public cloud. People can, you can easily just go online and then decide that you want to buy a subscription of Microsoft 365. You don't need a special configuration for that, especially if it's a small business, right? So it's very easy to set up and all of that. Now, private cloud, a company like a top bank can decide that, oh, we don't want our solutions to, to be on the same, it's in the cloud, all right, yes, but then we don't want it to be on the same server as every other person. We want to manage the security of our platform. We want to be able to, determine what runs on our cloud solution, right, or what runs on our infrastructure and all of that. So you can have a private cloud, or you can have hybrid. So hybrid is like a mix of public and private. So you're taking advantage of some of the public applications, some of the public, or the applications available to the public, and then you are also designing it. You're also designing, services that are unique to your organization, and managing your identity and so on and so forth. So basically, to plan for user accounts, as it says here, you must first understand the two identity models in Microsoft 365. So we have cloud only identity and we have hybrid identity. Now, what's the difference between these two, right? When we talk about cloud only identity, for example, we used the example earlier of a small business trying to, we have a printing company, and we are trying to be as professional as possible, right? We want to set up a Microsoft 365 environment. We don't have any existing technology, we don't have any existing infrastructure. We just want to get started, right? So such a company, you can't say, oh, okay, you're going to have, that company would definitely may not have like a server on premises. They don't already manage users or what have you. They just want to take advantage of Microsoft 365 and let Microsoft manage their identity and all of that. So if they go ahead to configure, to set up a Microsoft 365 plan, maybe they go for the business basic plan, right? Depending on what, the business basis subscription, depending on their requirements, right? Then most likely they will be having their identities managed fully in the cloud. So it means that, they sign up for Microsoft 365. We saw the homepage earlier, they get access to the homepage. The admin has access to the admin console. The admin can create users, delete users, reset users' passwords. Everybody just accesses the service in the cloud, right? And if the admin should reset a user's password, it's going to push to all user devices. So if the user has access to that, maybe they're accessing Microsoft 365 using their mobile device, for example, right? The password has been reset. It's going to ask the user to provide a new password. If they're accessing using their laptop, it's going to ask them for the new password on the laptop, and so on and so forth. However, that's for cloud only identity. It's simple, it's seamless. The user is able to, or the admins are able to, just easily manage identity in the cloud, right? However, for hybrid scenario, so for example, we've been using the bank example also. So take, for example, a top bank in Africa, like First Bank of Nigeria. They already have servers on their premises. They probably even have applications that are managed by third party, right? They have applications managed by third party and all of that. And now you want to introduce Microsoft 365 to them, right? So how can they maintain, how can they maintain the on-premises identities? How can they maintain, continue to manage their users that are using the on-premises applications, and also manage the users that would now be accessing Microsoft 365 service? So this is where you now have the hybrid scenario. So you can have it's like a synchronization, it's a connection between the cloud and the on-premises. So you connect both platforms together, and you can do that using Azure AD Connect, so Azure Active Directory Connect, right? But before you even do that Azure Active Directory Connect, you have to plan towards it, right? So when we say plan towards it, for example, okay, asking key questions as the administrator, you're asking key questions like, for example, do you want your users, okay, what happens if no, let me start with, do you want your users to be able to use, for example, like smart cards and what have you, to be able to access their profile, right? For example, okay, they're trying to use their laptop to access their profile. You don't want them to always have to provide a password. If they have like a token, they can just create a code that is generated by that token, and once that code comes up, they enter the code, they can access their emails, they can access Microsoft 365, and they can also access the on-premises services, right? Do you want that scenario? Do you want that you can have a password sync, or password write back? So if you reset a user's password in the cloud, if you reset the user's password in Microsoft 365, then it should push that password reset to the on-premises also, so that the user has the same password, right? Or the reverse is the case. If you reset their password in the on-premises environment, it should push the password reset to the cloud, so that the same password, the user basically maintains the same password on both platforms. You want to ask yourself a question that, okay, if, for example, if the on-premises server goes down, maybe there's a network issue, the server is experiencing there's currently a downtime with the server being managed by First Bank, do you still want should users still be able to access their email, right, which is hosted on Microsoft 365? So that's like a password hash scenario, right? So where they provide the password, it just authenticates them directly. They can still access Microsoft 365 in the cloud. However, they can't access the on-premises services. So there are different things you need to plan towards, and would not help you to, configure your Microsoft 365 platform at a more enterprise level than just a basic configuration. So if you explore this page even further, you get to see like various things that distinguishes the two types of identity and their best fit and benefits, right? So if you explore this page further, you get to see all of that. Then not to dwell on this so much, okay, I think I need to answer this question before I move forward, but let me just move back. So I want to show us, yes, so choose the authentication method for your Azure AD hybrid identity solution. So for organizations with an existing, for like a First Bank, for example, they already have an existing on-premises directly footprint, right? They already have a way that they manage their identity for users, right? And they want to now move their applications to the cloud. They want to pick the right authentication method, right? So what are the options available to them? What are the various authentication methods available to them? So Azure Active Directory, I mentioned earlier, for you to be able to create that synchronization, or to create that connection between the cloud and on-premises, there is a tool that we call Azure AD Connect. So Azure AD Connect sync tool. So you can see that here. So you can use Azure AD Connect sync or Azure AD Connect Cloud sync. So basically, this will help to provision your users, the same users you have in your on-premises environment. It will create them in the cloud in Microsoft 365. So you don't have to, as an admin, since those users already exist, you don't have to start creating them from scratch. That tool just moves, like it moves or replicates the users. It moves their identity, the email address, password, all the user properties and what have you. Everything moves to the cloud. So you can either manage users from the cloud, from Microsoft 365, or you continue to manage them in your on-premises environment. So Azure AD, it supports various or the following authentication methods for hybrid identity solutions, right? We have cloud authentication. So with cloud authentication, right? This is a scenario where Azure AD actually handles the user sign-in process, meaning that you can have seamless single sign-on. Users can sign into their cloud applications without having to re-enter their credentials. So you also have there are two options for this. So you have Azure AD password hash synchronization, Azure AD password hash synchronization, and we also have Azure AD pass-through authentication. So in exams, for example, they will give you like a scenario that, okay, if you have this scenario, how best do you or what authentication method would handle this scenario better, right? So password hash synchronization, it's like the simplest way to enable authentication for on-premises, in the sense that users can use the same username and password that they use on premises without you having to deploy any extra infrastructure. So you can for example, if there's a I mentioned earlier that if there's a downtime in the on-premises environment, so what this means is that if there's a downtime in the on-premises environment, the users will still continue to have access to their Microsoft 365 service, right? So they still continue to have access to their Microsoft 365 service. It authenticates with Microsoft 365. They can still access their email, their productivity tools, and so on and so forth, right? So in this password hash scenario, passwords are never stored in clear text. Like, it doesn't store the passwords in clear text, but it's placed in like a hash format, right? So which helps to secure the passwords and so on and so forth. Then we now have pass-through authentication. So the other option for cloud authentication is pass-through authentication. So this method, it provides a simple password validation for it. So it basically, so what this means is that, for example, as a user, I want to access Microsoft 365, right? I work with First Bank, or I work with a top enterprise company, and the company already manages or used to manage identity on premises. Now I want to access Microsoft 365. I go to portal.office.com, right? I enter my username and then I enter my password. Now it's not going to check Microsoft 365. It's not going to check, the Azure AD to confirm that my password is valid. It's going to pass through Microsoft 365 to the on-premises server and confirm that, yes, this password is actually valid. And when it verifies that, goes through the whole security check and all of that, it will now come back and grant me access to that Microsoft 365 app that I need access to. So what that means is that for this scenario, if there's any downtime, with the on-premises environment, because the system has to go through, like, pass through Microsoft 365 and actually go to the on-premises to verify the identity, that the details are provided, they are correct. If there's any downtime with the on-premises platform, it is not going to, my login is not going to be successful, right? It's actually not going to be successful because there's a downtime. So that's like the two differences between the password hash and then the pass-through authentication. Then we have federated authentication. In this federated instance also, identity is managed on premises, right? And then you go for this option if you want users to be able to take advantage of advanced authentication options. For example, you want them to be able to use third-party multi-factor authentication. You want them to be able to use smart card based authentication. So they want to use, for example, tokens, or you want them to use a facial recognition to sign in and stuff like that. So if that's the case, then you need to set up federated authentication. So we have there's this flow chart that helps every administrator to make the right decision when it comes to planning for identity authentication and what have you, right? So we'll just go through this, and then after this we'll call it a day. Then next week we continue from where we stopped with regards to planning, and then we'll actually see how can you set up Azure AD Connect, right? How can you set up Azure AD Connect? What does it look like when you've configured Azure AD Connect? What's the difference, right? And then we'll carry on from there. So this flowchart starts from, okay, you have start, then it asks you, okay, do you want Azure AD to handle signing completely in the cloud, right? Do you want to have a full cloud authentication, or do you want hybrid? So if it is yes, then it asks you again, okay, do you want to enforce user level Active Directory security policies during signing? So sorry, do you want to so what this is asking is, oh, okay, do you want to have the security policies that have been set up on premises, like that have been set up in the customer's environment? Do you want those policies to affect the user when they are trying to sign in? If no, then yet again you come down, oh, do you have a sign-in requirement not natively supported by Azure AD? Is there a sign-in requirement that must go through the on-premises? Is there a sign-in requirement that cannot be managed by, Azure AD is cloud. Always remember that Azure AD is cloud. And then if you now hear of just Active Directory or on-premises Active Directory, then that's referring to the parts that the customer manages. But if you say Azure AD, then that is cloud, right? So is there any signing requirement that is not supported by Azure AD? If no, then the system is now telling you that this flowchart is leading you to that you should probably set up or go for the option of password hash synchronization plus seamless single sign-on. However, if you have other options, okay, do you want Azure AD to handle signing completely? No. Then do you want to integrate with an existing federation provider? Yes. I want my users to be able to use like a third-party authentication tool. I want them to be able to use a token and what have you. If the answer is yes, then do you want sign-in disaster recovery or leaked credentials report? If no, use federation. If yes, use federation with password hash sync. So there are different scenarios, and based on the scenario that fits your organization, right, you can now pick which of the authentication option will be best for your company. It's good to yet again, the reason why I had to present this using this Microsoft Learn is that it doesn't limit your understanding of the various scenarios. It actually presents you with almost all relevant information you need. So you can read more on this. You can, okay, what is really what's the difference between this password hash sync? What is pass-through authentication with single sign-on or with password hash sync? What's the federation service? Now we have the basic idea or the basic understanding of it, right? So you can still read further, and then we'll carry on from there. So that's really it for today. Do we have any questions based on what we've covered so far? Do we have any doubts? This is more advanced than what we took in the fundamentals class. Actually, I'm sure you would have noticed for those of us that were in the fundamentals class, but it's really just, bringing us deeper into, how to configure Microsoft 365 in an enterprise level, right? As a more senior or as a more advanced Microsoft 365 administrator. So do we have any questions, any fears or anything really? Hello, are we together?
Yes, ma.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, we are. We are just, it's look as if we are just trying to get it gradually. So maybe
Yeah, I
as time
understand.
goes on,
This
maybe
is
all as
really
we begin to read on our own and
yes.
practical level, you understand better.
Okay, exactly. It's really a lot to digest initially, but it's important. It's actually
This
important that it's touched on. That we actually touch on these various options before we now actually go into the practical session. So next week will be more practical. We'll actually look at the demo environment. We'll look at how you can connect. If I created a lab for like an on-premises to show you what it looks like to sync identity from on-premises to the cloud, right? So we'll actually see how it's done or what it looks like or what it feels like, right? And then prior to next week's class, for those of us that do not have, if you do not already have your dev environment or your demo environment, then demo tenant created, I would advise that please have that set up, right? So that if you were not a part of the fundamentals class, you can play around with the environment, ahead of next week. And then if you have any questions, it makes it easier to address because you now have an actual understanding of what the environment looks like and all of that. So I would share this slide with I don't know if okay, yeah, I'll upload this slide in the chat for this class, right? I'll upload this slide in this chat for this class. So all the links that we have looked at so far, the link to create your demo environment, the link for our learning resources used today and that we'll be using going forward, everything is in there. So you can always go through during the week and then come with your questions next week. Thank you all so very much for joining us today. I'll stop recording.